Hi, everybody. I'm Gwendolyn Sturk of Sturk Family Law, and I have the privilege to have with me my friend Alexandra today. And we're going to talk about employers and what businesses can do to deal with COVID-related issues during the pandemic and after. Hi, Alexandra. How are you?
Hi, Gwen. How are you? I'm good, thanks.
Good. Can you tell us a little bit about your background in dealing with employers and consulting?
Sure. So I own GlueMat Consulting Group, and my firm works with small and medium-sized companies and helps with any HR issues and HR needs, mainly related to documentation. So I assist in writing handbooks and job descriptions and policies and procedures, and even employee performance evaluations.
Sure.
And I also help with training. So if a company needs training in terms of what we call soft skills or professional development skills, things like conflict resolution, communication, leadership, things like that, sexual harassment as well, then I will facilitate that training for them.
Well, that's great. And I'm sure that your business has certainly taken on a new area, which is helping
Yes.
employers deal with this COVID situation.
Absolutely.
First of all, employers may not have an employee assistance program. They might only have insurance. They might have employees that are struggling. Can you tell us just generally what you'd recommend to an employer to deal with the COVID situation?
Sure. So, certain states are opening. Illinois has opened. It's continuing to open. So we're not at full staff with a lot of businesses. A business such as yourself, you had told me that you are you have a lot of people still working from home.
Absolutely.
I know a lot of companies are still doing that, but some people are back in the office. But what employers need to realize, and I think most of them do, but just in case you don't, it's not business as usual anymore.
Right.
What we know before the middle of March basically doesn't exist. I'm not sure it's going to get back to that at all. I don't know. I hope it does, but I'm not really sure about that, of course. But employers need to be very aware of their employees' mental health and how their employees are doing. And just because they're working from home doesn't mean they're okay. And certainly just because they're back in the office doesn't mean they're okay. Actually, there's a lot of things that employers should be looking out for in terms of the mental well-being of their employees.
Can you give us some tips about things that you think that we should be looking for?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, it doesn't always look in production. It doesn't always take place in production. You can have an employee that still is absolutely wonderfully productive, but is really struggling with some mental health issues related to COVID. So I'm looking more for maybe response times or mood shifts or just the way their attitude is and their energy levels, things like that. If you're noticing that an employee seems more negative than normal, or not than normal, but they're more negative, or they seem to be less hopeful about things, or they're not taking part in discussions about the future, or they're very bleak about the future, or perhaps they are missing a lot of time. Maybe they're getting sick more often. With or without COVID, for that matter, things like that. There should be a little bit of a bell that goes off to say, something's not right. Let me check in and see how this person is doing.
So let's say you're the employer and you do check in, and how far can you go? What's an appropriate question, and how far should the employer address the matter?
Sure. So let's say that you've noticed that somebody seems to be not very hopeful, not very cheery. Their attitude, which used to be pretty positive, seems to be kind of struggling there. I don't think there's anything wrong with going to this person and saying, hey, I just want you to know that I'm noticing these changes in you. And what's going on? Is there anything that I can help you with? Is there anything that you're struggling with? Is there something that I can do about the way we are doing things now that can assist you? And certainly an employee is probably not going to spill their guts about what's going on to their employer, but hopefully with the employer's willingness to say, hey, I'm with you. We're in this together. What can I do to help you? I am invested in you. Your well-being matters to me. Then maybe they'll say, you know what, I am struggling, or this has been really problematic for me, or or whatever it is that what's going on, and they can be forthcoming with that.
Yeah, and then hopefully get some help. You can, as an
Mhm.
employer, though, you can only go so far. Would you agree with that?
Right, right. You don't want to step into their personal lives because that is not your role as the employer. But at the same time, if you're noticing some significant differences in the way that they're working, and it may even come out in productivity, it doesn't always come out that way, but it may come out in productivity, then as a manager, as a supervisor, as an employee, as an employer and an owner, it is your responsibility to say, hey, I'm noticing these differences. What can we do to get us back to where we need to be? Which actually leads to my next point about employer expectations.
Okay.
A lot of employers can jump back in and say, we've got to be doing this, this, and this right away, and we've got to meet this quota, and we've got to meet this number of things, and almost as if COVID never happened. And that's, again, very, very unrealistic. And you're asking people to do things in the middle of a trauma, because I truly believe that COVID has been traumatic for all of us on some level or another, whether it's related to our health, our family, our finances, our jobs, our livelihoods, and so on. We have to have a different set of expectations right now. We have to be a little bit softer. I'm not saying to let employees do whatever they want and don't have to be productive and they can sit at home all day and do nothing. I'm not suggesting that whatsoever, but I am suggesting more conversations with your team, more conversations with your employees about how you all as a group and a team are going to navigate these murky waters together, especially because we don't see COVID going away anytime soon.
Right, and I think that those murky waters come in many ways. I mean, from the employer's perspective, it comes from the lack of business. Every business to some extent's been affected. Yes, we know there are a few businesses that will exceed expectations through COVID, but as a general rule, things have changed. The world, was on lockdown. They're not spending, they're not getting the services or the widgets or the production. So there has to be a balance there between the two as well. And having that conversation, I think, is also important about how can we survive as a business, because I also want to not forget that that's also an issue for a lot of people out there.
Absolutely. So all the more reason to have these ongoing discussions with your team. Everybody's kind of done with Zoom, right? Everybody's like all zoomed out, but that's going to be the way to go here for the time being. So have those Zoom meetings, make them fun too, though. That's another piece of going back to work and trying to create kind of a new normal or a new culture within your business, is having some fun with these Zoom meetings and not having them be so boring. Maybe it's crazy hat meeting, or maybe it's, bring your favorite, favorite appetizer or favorite dessert to the meeting or something like that. There's ways to be creative about that. But it's all part, again, about doing this as a team and embracing your employees. They have good ideas. It's important for employers to check in with your employees. They're doing the work, so they know the ins and the outs of what it is that you do. So it's important to get their input, and that alone might help them to feel like they're part of the solution and working on coming up with a way to get through this.
And I do think that level of creativity has to be there. I mean, the employees and the employer have to work together because it is a new day. I think that no matter what you do, certainly portion of your business isn't as strong as it was before, and you have to redirect. And if you were selling widgets, you got to sell service. And if you're selling service, you got to come up with some widgets, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
It's a new day overall to how we do that together.
Right.
How do you help an employee in an employer situation where, they're not able to go back, or there's concern about safety? So they may work at home more long-term, or they may not go back to how it was, that adjustment element. What would you say to both sides of that equation?
So it's a slow process. First of all, you don't have to jump into anything very, very quickly. Again, have conversations with everybody. What would make you feel safe in coming back to the workplace? For example, I know a workplace that has all sorts of new not limitations, but restrictions. You know, of course, there's masks. Of course, there's mandatory hand washing and temperature taking and all of that. You know, not every company can do that, of course. But I think if you continue to show that you are willing to do what it takes to make the place safe, make the environment safe, where again, for example, staggered work hours. You know, where some of you are in the office and some of you are working from home, and then the other day it's flip-flopped, or continuing to stay working from home. But there are a lot of different ways to, you know, to work on that so that people are feeling safe. I know for me personally, we talked at length about what's going to make us feel safe. And we were asked to give ideas about what is the best way for us to come back to work and what's going to make us feel safe. And, you know, some things I think are a little overboard, but other things I think are, and I understand it, so I don't even complain about it or anything like that. But at the same time, I do know that my employer, in addition to my own company, are making things very safe.
Right, and then I think there's the last part of this component, and we haven't really talked about it, is you have the believers and then the non-believers. That's what I call them in terms of what are the real ramifications about COVID, and trying to strike that balance. Whether you're an employer or an employee can be somewhat difficult.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And, you know, for whether you believe or you don't believe, is really irrelevant, because we do know that there is an illness out there, and we know that it kills, and we know that it has had catastrophic repercussions and consequences. So you may think this is a little flu bug, and somebody else might think that this is a death sentence.
Right.
But the important thing is that safety is paramount. We do know, and I think everybody, whether you believe that COVID, that you believe in the extreme of COVID, or you believe that it's just a little flu bug, I think we all can agree that it carries some danger. And so we have to be safe. And employers need to make sure that they are speaking to everybody there, and that you're telling the people who aren't mask wearers, you got to wear your mask. You may not like it, and this is part of, and this is why policies and procedures are really important too. And that's why employers need to be thinking about that too. What kind of policies are you setting for the safety of your employees and of your customers?
Right.
Now, for example, let's say Target. Who doesn't go to Target? You know, most people have been there at least once in their lives. You know, Target has the aisles going one way. They have the carts. The carts are ready for you when you come in. Every time I've been in Target, somebody's been cleaning those carts for me. So I know that that's been cleaned. You know, so that makes me feel good about going into Target. I don't feel that scared about going in there. But if I know of a store that isn't doing that, I'm not going to go in there.
That's right.
And it's the same way with our businesses.
Absolutely. So if you're an employer there today and you're listening to this, can you give them contact information so if they have questions about what's going on that they can reach out to you, ma'am?
Absolutely. So you can reach me at my email address, which is Alexandra, ALEXANDRA.G@Comcast.net. You can call me at 708-204-7228, or you can even go on my website and check things out, and that is glumacconsulting.com. That's GLUMAC consulting.com. And I also want to put this out, Gwen. One of the things that I feel very strongly, again, is we talked a little bit about the mental health of employees as well. That part of safety is their mental well-being. I would love to, and am available to, go into businesses and talk to your employees. You know, I can put on my clinician hat as a therapist that I was, for 20 years, and talk to them about their fears and their anxieties about returning to work. I can do it through Zoom. I can do it face-to-face. But I think that's another option for people, is that that you can work with a coach on getting people to
Sure.
you know, to get more adjusted to what it is that we're going through. And that's
Well,
something
very
else we
good.
have available.
So if you're listening today, you can contact Alexandra and we can move forward. So as an employer or as an employee, there's things that can be done as a result of the pandemic. Well, it's good to talk to you today, and we'll be
You too,
talking to you
Jen.
real soon again. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.